Okay, here's the grade book. So we got first names only, and we have 4 exams, and then we have 3, or actually really only 2 calculated columns, right? So calculate an average, calculate a grade, a letter grade, and then a spark line. Good? So this should be pretty familiar because it's one of the recent chapters that we did. So the first step, let me enable editing here. Calculate the average in column F. So let's see who my next victim is here. It would be Grace. Grace, say hello. You here? How about Noreen? How are you, Noreen? The arguments. Remember, anything that goes in there, we call it the arguments, kind of in the formula. You add them up, and then you divide, okay? So that's a complex formula where you're doing 2 operations, right? I got to add, then I got to divide. So what is another alternative? Instead of writing my own formula, what else could I do? That might be easier. What about this guy up here? Right? So I could use the function called average, and it automatically knows how many arguments there are. It adds them up and divides by the number of arguments. So let's try it with Buddy over here. Buddy doesn't look like he did too good. Okay, so I'm going to go in here. I'm going to put the function called average. Call that up. It's weird, it gave me the PMT again. You can even use this, actually. Remember auto sum? You can just use it. You can change it to average. Just try it that way. It's still the same thing. It's the exact function, right? So it's going to basically take these 4 arguments in this range, B10 to E10, and then divide it by 4. And like I said, I could tell right away that Buddy wasn't doing too good, right? So he ends up with a 56, and we're going to then round this off to 0 decimals. So remember, this is right out of the assignment. You go in here, you're going to nest the average inside round. So start typing round, right? Grab it, and then what do you want to do? Round is going to use this argument, and then it needs one more argument, right? It needs to know how many decimals. So comma, 0 decimals is what the assignment is asking for, right? And then close the parens. And I think Buddy's going to end up with a 57, actually, right? Because it rounded it off. So there you go. And now I'm going to pull this down, and we've got everybody's average calculated to 0 decimal places. Good? Probably it's a good idea to do this, too, just to clean it up a little bit. Okay, now we're going to calculate the grade with the if function. This is the one that we've been kind of playing with, let's see if I can do it without screwing it up. So here's the parameters, right? So if the grade is greater than 90, then give an A, or equal to, right? It's greater than or equal to 90, give an A. If it's not, then test again to see if it's greater than 80, right? And if it is greater than 80, then give a B. If it's not, then test again, see if it's greater than 70. Do it for 60, and if it doesn't fulfill any of these, just give it an F. So in other words, if it's less than 60, give it an F. So let's see how I do with this. Sometimes I get the syntax wrong. I have to just play around with it. And if you do too, you just got to analyze the formula and make sure you've got it right. So I do the if function here. I make the logical test. I'm going to say, is this number, F10, greater than or equal to 90? Okay, so it tells me right away that it's false. But if it was true, I would return, in quotes, A. Okay, see how that works? I'm putting the A in there, even though it's false, because it's going to make more tests, and it's going to come back to it if it is true. Now, if it's false, this is where you're going to do the nested function. So the next one is another if statement. Open it up, and then say the same thing about the argument. It's F10. Is it greater than or equal to, greater than or equal to 80, right? Okay, and then If that's true, then we're going to return B as the grade. Okay, and if it's false, what are we going to do? We're going to actually do another if statement, right? So, I mean, the idea, once you wrap your head around it, it's the same thing over and over again. So this time it's if, again, it's the same thing we're testing. Open the parens. If F10 is greater than or equal to, this time it's going to be the C grade, right? So it's 70, and then comma. 70 is going to give us a C in quotes. Okay, and if that's false, we're going to make another test. Okay, and the next test is going to be another if statement, looking at whether F10 is greater than or equal to 60. Okay, and if that is true, we're going to return D. And if it's false, now this is the end, this is the last statement in the string, right? So now if this one is false, they're all false, right? Does that make sense? If this one is false, they're all false. So now we're going to return F in quotes. Okay? And then you just got to make sure that you close the parens the same way. And I think it's like that. This is where I usually make my mistake, but let's see what happens. Worked. Okay? So Buddy failed the exam. Let's pull down everybody else. And bingo, we've got everybody's grade in there. Maybe I'll use this for you guys. So anyway, that really works very nicely, right? And it's totally dynamic so that, later on if Buddy, says, gee, you graded me wrong on that. I really got 100 or 1,000. You can see now Buddy aced everything, right? So you can see that all these are dynamically related to what's going on in these arguments. And it comes up again. We're not going to give Buddy 1,000. Actually, let me just undo all that so you can see the original data. Might be better. Anyway, whatever it is, I can't get back to the original data. Let's just see what the next one is. Add a spark line to H showing only the 4 exams with a high and low point. Okay? So how do we do that? Go here. You're going to insert. Okay, in the chart area, you got your spark line group. We want a line chart, right? The data range is going to be B to E, and we want it to appear in H10. Does that make sense? That should be good. I don't know if we need the absolute value there, but let's see what happens. So there's our spark line. How do we put the high and low? Right here under show. So we want to see his best grade and his worst grade. Okay, does that make sense? And now we can pull it down. And there's everybody's trend. So it's great. Actually, you can see people who started low but then improved, right? Other people who started really well, got off to a good start, and maybe then, didn't do as well. It's a great way to kind of see the trend that's going there. Any questions? So then the last thing is to sort the table by average, highest to lowest. So what you can do here, basically, is select everything. Should work if you select everything. And then go to sort. And I'm going to do a custom sort on this, right? So I can sort by average, highest to lowest. So by student, no. That's why if I want the names to be alphabetical, they already are alphabetical, I think. Right? So we want to sort it by average, and not smallest to lowest, but largest to smallest. And then say OK, and they all, now obviously they all, sort, but everybody keeps the same grade, right? We sort by here, these are the highest grades to the lowest grades. No one failed. And then, obviously Buddy keeps his grades and Gil keeps his grades, whatever. Good? Make sense?